And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:08 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, The John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wags in Culver City.
John, let's check in with the public comment section at the LA City Council meeting today, where one public commenter had some choice words for Ulysses Hernandez before he broke into his usual routine.
Do you understand why you cannot capable to respond to disaster like fire, like earthquake, whatever natural disaster out there? You will never have the money because you gave money away to all those illegals. That's the reason why. And then right now you are coming back right here crying about you have no money for the disaster. That is absolutely laughable. And then item number 13. 流浪的人在外想念你，亲爱的妈妈。
Wait, why'd you cut it off? He was almost getting to my favorite part.
I don't think the audience wants to hear all 3 minutes of that guy singing.
It's a real catchy tune, though.
When he got to general public comment, he changed his tone to something that I can only describe as a cry voice to go after Council President Marquise Harris Dawson.
Good morning, Council President Harris Dawson. This is Asian Lunar New Year. I want to ask you if you can provide some services to those Asian legal immigrants instead of continue providing services to all the criminals, to all the gangbangers, to all the gangsters, to all the drug addicts.
If you're not watching Channel 35, you're missing out. You know, listening to these council meetings reminds me why I went to school to study political science. God bless him.
It's a very, very special forum every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Too bad it's not Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
That would really help us. Friday!
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, of late, there's been a lot of shenanigans going on related to the fire, and we've been keeping you updated on as many of them as we can keep track of, and certainly we'll have more later on in the program to get to. But while the fire is occupying so much of our time, the criminals are still doing what they do, which means the crime blotter is full. So, Randy, let's open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And today's first edition takes us to the city by the bay.
I can't believe how many times we have done a story about this one space, this one spot, this one store. But once again, for the fourth time in 6 months, San Francisco's Cigarettes Cheaper has been broken into.
Now, if they eventually have to end up shutting this place down, who's going to give the people of San Francisco lung cancer?
For more on the cigarette shop that just keeps getting repeat burglars, here's KGO.
The owner of a small business in San Francisco is really at his wit's end after cars were used to drive through the front door to burglarize the shop 4 times in the past 6 months. But the most...
At what point do you just stop selling cigarettes?
You get on the phone with Flo from Progressive. Hey, it's me again. Yeah, another Nissan Altima just came through the front wall.
He might have to stop selling the ciggies and just call the store Cheaper.
Or he might have to just start selling the Altimas.
But the most recent incident is leading...
Well, you did mention it multiple times, so I'm picking up what you're putting down, that you would like to hear it.
Well, I'm sure some of them are missing.
There's an Altima ALTMA 4899410. Please move it now. You're blocking someone.
You could have gone with Kia, but you went with Altima because you wanted to hear that.
Well, the Kia, or the Altima, I guess I should say, is blocking someone. It's blocking the front door of this cigarette shop.
But the most recent incident is leaving him and others asking, could police have done more?
Yes. Yes, they could have.
The answer to that question every time you ask it, Mr. News Anchor, is yes.
Here's ABC 7 News anchor Dion Lim. She went to the San Francisco police for answers.
Not safe. It's horrible.
Bars on the windows and boarded up doors. Cigarettes cheaper at 17th and Geary is no stranger to mass theft.
I think a car has driven through this guy's front door probably 5 to 6 times.
At what point do you give up the bad habit if your addiction to cigarettes requires you to go to a shop where you might get run over standing inside the building?
Oh, no. The people who are stealing the cartons of cigarettes, they are not smoking them themselves. They are pushing them to Market Street, to the illegal street markets where people are buying them.
No, I'm just saying, if you're legitimately shopping in that shop and you're standing next to the front door, you could end up being hosed off the grill of a Kia.
That is a wake-up call.
The most recent seen in this surveillance video.
But that is the pull of nicotine.
Boy, it is a strong addiction.
The most recent seen in this surveillance video, when a car drove into the building early Wednesday morning and multiple suspects allegedly made off with $20,000 to $30,000 in cigarettes. Neighbors say...
I don't think you can claim that on your insurance.
I don't think you can. But you know, Randy, the people who stole the cigarettes, it's because they have children at home who are very, very, very hungry for nicotine.
Well, it's supposed to make them less hungry.
It is an appetite suppressant.
Now, do you think these cigarette stores, since they are such targets in the Bay Area and Southern California for all this rampant theft, do you think they have deals with the tobacco companies where if they get a bunch of cartons stolen, they get a discount on the resupply?
I'm not sure, but it was situations like this that led to protection rackets from the mob back in the old days. If you're running this cigarette shop and the cops won't give you any help and your insurance company's about to drop you, what's the difference between going to a private security company and just paying off some gangsters to turn these cars into the Bonnie and Clyde car if they run through your front wall again?
Neighbors say they've seen it all.
I don't feel safe here, and I work here.
This is the 4th time in 6 months the shop has been targeted, despite nearly 20...
Every 3 weeks.
At what point do you just stop being surprised when a car comes through the front wall?
This is the 4th time in 6 months the shop has been targeted, despite nearly 20 security cameras and installation of a new bollard to prevent cars from driving in, and security
20
gates.
security cameras? What, are they filming Big Brother there?
Well, and the answer that was supposed to stop all of this car crashing is the bollards that are supposed to stop the car from crashing in, but apparently the bollard wasn't strong enough for the car.
And they always tell you, if you're the victim of a crime, put up lights, put up security cameras. Cameras are your friend. Put them up outside, put them up inside, put them in the front, put them in the back, put cameras everywhere. Cameras. So, okay, you put the cameras up, and you have 6 cars going through your front wall in 6 months. All you're doing is you're catching it from every single possible angle.
And security gates.
It sucks, and I don't think he has insurance anymore.
But what frustrates this shop the most, how SFPD can be seen arriving at the scene. 2 officers with guns drawn, and the suspect leaving a trail of cigarette cartons behind get away.
They didn't chase him?
Well, they kind of, I guess, marked their territory. In the old days, it was with pieces of bread. Now it's with cartons of cigarettes.
In that moment, when you're starting to panic and realize the cops are onto you, are you ditching the crappier cartons first? Did the Cools get ditched before the Marlboros?
I don't know, but if you're the cops, it doesn't necessarily take Sherlock Holmes to solve this one. You just follow the trail of stolen cigarettes.
You know, I don't feel like the cops are protecting them. I don't feel like the cops take it serious. I don't feel like nothing is being done.
The owner of the store didn't...
Can you imagine you're on that beat and you get the call from the station? We got another break-in at Cigarettes Cheaper again?
And the woman who's the cashier sounds totally defeated.
The owner of the store didn't want to go on camera, citing safety concerns and frustrations that after speaking out time and time again about the thefts, he says nothing ever changes.
Yeah, that guy has already been on TV several times, and we've played those reports. He's done.
I'm shocked he's not back in Libya.
I reached out to SFPD, and here's what they had to say.
You know, some people, it doesn't matter how many hardships they face, they're going to fulfill their lifelong dream of selling cigarettes.
I'm sure when he was a boy in Libya, he thought about the day that he could grow up and own a cigarette shop in Oakland and provide the members of the community with a very bad, disgusting habit.
And then he ended up in San Francisco. Even better dream.
I reached out to SFPD, and here's what they had to say.
There was no pursuit in this case because the responding officers, that was a single unit, had to remain on scene and secure this place of business. Those officers had...
What, they had to stand there and make sure no one else could steal the cigarettes from the gaping hole that was the door of that business?
No, I think they were enjoying the evidence.
Those officers had to stay and make sure that that location was secure, that there weren't any other occupants inside that business, and more importantly, no victims that were injured in that location.
Despite
who the hell is going to want to rob a cigarette shop with no cigarettes? Can someone answer that question for me?
Maybe that's the answer here. If you own a convenience store or a cigarette shop, you got to take all the cigarettes home with you every night. Don't leave them in the store.
That sounds like fun.
Despite the reasoning...
Or, you know, maybe we all just stop selling cigarettes.
Despite the reasoning, the owner of Cigarettes Cheaper isn't buying it. He and those in the area can agree the crime needs to end.
It's a bummer.
In San...
That it is.
What a tag to that story.
It's a bummer.
You know what? Don't have a whole lot of drops this year yet. I'm saving that. That's a good one.
It's a bummer.
In San Francisco, Dion Lim, ABC 7 News.
There you go. Cigarettes Cheaper in San Francisco has had a car crash through its doors 4 times in 6 months.
So that's what's going on in San Francisco. But the blotter is not over yet. Let's reopen it.
If the cashier is dummy,
Questions?
Because there's also chaos going on across the bay.
In Oakland, you say?
In Oakland.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
There was a sideshow over the weekend that got so out of control that somebody crashed their car. And then the bullets started hailing.
And you thought it was just the rain coming from the sky this week.
For more, here's KTVU, Fox 2.
Well, Mike, seems like we can't go one weekend in Oakland without sideshows, but this time there...
Or murders, or break-ins, or anything else.
Or cars going through walls.
Or political corruption scandals.
This time there was violence in the form of a crash and a shooting that left 1 victim dead and 2 others hurt. A weekend sideshow in Oakland led to a deadly shootout that left 1 victim dead and 2 others hurt. Videos...
I don't know if you get to call them a victim because they all went to this thing.
Yeah. Maybe you can have sympathy for the person for being shot and killed. You never want to see that happen. But have a little judgment.
Video circulating on Instagram.
The victim is usually the homeowner that the bullet flies through, but that's not this case. This was a participant that got shot.
Video circulating on Instagram shows a car spitting donuts at East 12th Street and 10th Avenue in Oakland at about 7:45 Sunday night. You can't see...
This isn't even the middle of the night.
They start early.
You can't see it on screen, but you can...
They want to make sure they got home in time for 60 Minutes.
Well, that Leslie Stahl does a mean interview.
You can't see it on screen, but you can hear the crowd react as the car apparently hits at least 1 spectator. A few seconds later, gunfire erupts.
How dare you crash into me while you're doing donuts? I'm going to shoot you.
Okay, how can you get angry at someone who gets hit by a car when they're at an intersection watching an out-of-control car spin around?
Well, you got to understand, the people that go to these things, they've got hair triggers and they'll shoot you for anything. It is Oakland.
But even for someone with poor judgment, you've got to know that's the cost of doing business.
You can see this person apparently opening fire. Then a second person joins in. In this cell phone video...
Hey, he's shooting his gun. I got to shoot my gun.
Someone also should get them a calendar. New Year's was about a month ago.
In this cell phone video obtained by KTVU, you can see cars doing donuts and hear tires screeching. Someone shines a blue laser, and then the crowd reacts after the impact.
This is complete lawless mayhem, and it happens every single weekend in Oakland.
Did I tell you? I think I did. But it's apropos for this story. A friend of mine did one of these Big Brother sorts of things where he ended up becoming the godfather to a boy who grew up in a bad part of town where gang life was common. And the boy grew up in a family where the older brothers and the father and many of the relatives were gang members. And my friend was trying to help show this child that there was a different way. So my friend spent a lot of time with this person, and this person essentially became part of the family. But whenever something in the child's life would require adult supervision, my friend or one of his relatives would typically attend with this child. So inevitably, when one of the gang member relatives would get shot and there would be a funeral, my friend would have to attend the funeral with his godchild. And he told me that at one of the funerals, it was at a funeral house, I think in Norwalk, and as they were getting ready to have the service, I guess the send-off for a gang member is to do donuts like that right there at the funeral home in the parking lot. They were burning rubber and creating all of this white smoke like they just picked a new pope. And then after you see that go on outside the building and you go inside for the formal service, it's an open casket funeral, and the person's lying there in a Raiders jersey, and they bury the gang member with guns in the casket.
Wouldn't it be easier, simpler, safer, and cheaper to keep these people in prison forever?
It seems to be reasonable.
Even with the $150,000 a year price tag that Gavin Newsom likes to tout, the amount of damage some of these people do when they're out on the loose is more expensive than that.
Imagine if you lived in that neighborhood.
And then the gunfire. The crowd begins to scatter, running off and hopping into their cars. Oakland police were already in the area, preparing to respond to the sideshow when the shots were fired.
Preparing?
So they were just sitting there waiting for someone to get shot.
Yep.
Officers learned 3 people showed up at Highland Hospital. 1 of them died. The 2 other victims are expected to survive. Evidence markers littered the street, showing where officers recovered shell casings. On Monday, the street corner...
This street corner is just nothing but tire marks and bullets.
Can you imagine what an aerial view of that intersection must look like?
Looks like every other intersection in Oakland.
Evidence markers littered the street, showing where officers recovered shell casings. On Monday, the street corner was covered in skid marks.
This is uncalled for, insanity, and there's no
El Gallo.
Like clockwork.
This is uncalled for, insanity, and there's no reason for bringing that activity to the city of Oakland.
Oakland City Council member Noel Gallo is interim council president.
Oakland cannot be a site for sideshows. We need to enforce the laws that I have. I catch you doing sideshows, I get to keep your car, bottom line. And
yeah, but that's not what happens.
No.
And we do
no,
need
it's
to
not.
And we do need to make the arrest.
But in order to make arrests, police have to make sure they have enough officers to do so. Typically, police are far outnumbered by sideshow participants and spectators.
If there are enough people, dangerous people, at these events, Oakland PD does not respond because they're outnumbered and they're scared.
And they're not just outnumbered. They're outnumbered by a lot.
That's a damn...
There's more people there with guns than the police.
That's a damn shame. It's...
Oh, there's another drop.
That's a damn shame. It's...
That's a damn shame. With the screeching, that's a winner.
That's a damn shame. It's...
I have a feeling she's going to make the wall, too.
That's a damn shame. It's too much crime in the city of Oakland.
You don't say.
Well, she seems to be catching on.
And they need to do something about it.
This woman who was walking in the area said the city should find alternatives to sideshows.
I think the city of Oakland should have a place for them to do the sideshows.
No. This is not about car enthusiasts. This is about people who like illegal activity.
Imagine if they just let them do this on the weekends in the parking lot at City Hall. The moment they lose control over one of those cars and it kills about 8 people, guess who's getting sued?
So they can go there and race and have fun.
I wonder who she voted for.
She started out so promising, too.
That's a damn shame.
We'll remember her for that.
Now, those who spin donuts at sideshows could have their cars impounded for 30 days at a very expensive cost. And sometimes those tows could happen weeks or even months afterwards after police track them down. Now, in this case, certainly...
Yeah, but how often do police track them down? Because these things are only getting more prevalent in Oakland every week.
You think they're going to see the light after 30 days of no car?
Stakes are much higher. Someone could potentially face murder charges once police and prosecutors determine what exactly led up to the shooting. Live in Oakland, Henry Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Oakland's got to Oakland.
What do you think the odds are those cars are stolen anyway?
Oh, a very good chance.
That's a damn shame.
We're not going to let you see your stolen car for 30 days. How do you like that? If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you would like to go back and listen to some other Crime Blotter stories from earlier in the year or last year, that's easy to do.
Especially all the Oakland ones. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts.
Oh, my God. They melted the basketball court.
Go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app.
Who else do we go call Superman?
Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store.
It's a lot of crime now.
It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
And download all the podcasts.
That's a damn shame.
And coming up next week, we're going on the road.
How exciting is this? Johnny and I are heading to Orange County. Come see John and I broadcast live from noon to 3 on Friday the 7th at Rove Santa Ana. Rove Santa Ana is a full-service EV charging station with 40 ultra-fast EV chargers, a 24/7 lounge with restrooms and free Wi-Fi, a car wash, and a premium convenience store recharged by Gelson's. We're going to have free samples from vendors and barbecuing going on, so come hungry as we broadcast live. Plenty of parking for non-EVs as well. Rove and Recharge by Gelson's are located at 1008 East 17th Street in Santa Ana off the 5 at the corner of East 17th and Lincoln. We'll see you live Friday the 7th.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
790 KABC welcomes the Totally Tubular Festival with Right Said Fred, Men Without Hats, The Motels, and many, many more. It's all at the YouTube Theater on June 30th. Tickets are on sale Friday at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
And let's go ahead and reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, this one involves Chester the molester.
Okay, this is pretty outrageous, but par for the course when you're dealing with the California Department of Corrections. A convicted child molester, double convicted child molester, who is serving a life sentence, gets out of prison because the California State Department of Corrections feels bad that he has cancer.
Do you know how hard it is to get a life sentence even if you murder someone? And this guy's molestation convictions were so bad that they gave him a life sentence, and then the state of California turns around and lets him out?
The local DA in Yolo County is speaking out because he had no say in this whatsoever. There's no parole board. There's no hearings. If the Department of Corrections finds one judge that agrees with them, they can let people with life sentences back out on the street because they may only have 6 months to live.
Unreal.
For more, here's CBS Sacramento.
Now, new tonight, a man serving a life sentence for child molestation now being allowed out.
The 67-year-old was approved for what's called compassionate release, despite...
Is that compassionate to the victims?
Doesn't sound like it.
Despite pushback from the Yolo County District Attorney.
Your reporter covering...
Also, we're so worried about the cost of prison. This guy won't cost you anything in 6 months.
What must he have done to those poor kids to get that sentence?
I don't want to know, and it's not appropriate for air. It probably sounds like that trial you were involved in.
Yeah, well, I had to sit through 30 consecutive days of hearing nothing but that. So let me tell you, if you have to listen to 2 minutes of it, you're not going to get any sympathy from me, mister.
Despite pushback from the Yolo County District Attorney.
Your reporter covering Yolo County, Ashley Sharp, is live with this story, getting answers from the DA. Ashley, what they have to say?
Hey there. Well, let's talk first about how we got here. These compassionate release cases get to bypass the lengthy State Board of Parole process, meaning that CDCR...
You don't even have a parole hearing. You just get out.
How does it work like this?
Because this is state law. We elect people who write these laws. They pass them. The governor signs them. And then we find out years later the insanity that we approved of.
And then here's what happens. If you were to blame Newsom for this, Newsom would go, no, I didn't have anything to do with that. That's fake news. It's just the laws that I signed and the people I appointed did it.
That CDCR can make a recommendation to a county superior court when one of these offenders could qualify for compassionate release because of a terminal medical diagnosis. Now,
what if the cancer goes into remission? Do they go back inside?
Probably not.
Because of a terminal medical diagnosis. Now, in Kevin Ellis's case, this ruling came down in his favor on Thursday.
A prosecutor pushing back as a convicted sex predator is set to walk free in Yolo County.
I mean, nobody wants him living in their neighborhood. That's the bottom line.
District Attorney Jeff Reisig's office in Yolo County Superior Court Thursday fought against the release of Kevin Ellis and lost.
Obviously, we don't think that that's appropriate for a 4-time child molester to be released back into the community.
4 times.
And Yolo County is right outside of Sacramento, too.
Having served only a fraction of his 100-year sentence. We don't care what the circumstances are.
Ellis, now 60...
Yeah, who exactly are we protecting here?
Not the kids.
Ellis, now 67 years old, was convicted of child molestation first in 1995, then again in 2013. In the past, he's also failed.
So he's only served about 12 years of his 100-year sentence.
And you're talking about a huge spread. So you're not talking about someone who may have done 1 or 2 things and then learned their lesson. You're talking to someone who did this over a long period of time.
In the past, he's also failed to register as a sex offender.
And he doesn't even have the decency to knock on your door and tell you that he's a chomo.
Great.
He should die in prison. It certainly puts people at risk. And there's no guarantee.
Who is advocating for this guy to be free?
No, and you know what's going to happen? If some kid gets molested and their life becomes ruined and they spend the rest of their living days in therapy, what is Gavin Newsom get? Well, Gavin Newsom won't acknowledge it. But what will the people who advocated for this decision going to say? Well, we couldn't have seen that coming.
And there's no guarantee how long he's going to live out in the community.
Under California state law, compassionate release allows certain offenders facing terminal illness to be released from prison to live out their last days.
These are the kinds of bills and laws that you don't even hear about until they've already been passed, and these are the effects.
And look, here is the honest-to-God truth. And you talk to any doctor and they'll be straight with you. They don't know how much time you have left. They give you an estimate, but their estimates are frequently wrong. How often do you walk through the grocery store and you see one of the tabloids and they say, Hillary Clinton has 6 months to live, or fill-in-the-blank person has 6 months to live, and 10 years later they're still with us? I mean, it seems like Jimmy Carter's been circling the drain my entire life.
Well, he finally went down.
Yeah, that's true. Rest in peace.
Okay, according to my research in the last 30 seconds, while you had that rant, it looks like this was SB 6 back in 2016. So you could blame this one on Jerry Brown and everyone who was in the legislature back then who probably aren't now because of term limits.
Yeah, he was bad too.
Ellis qualifies thanks to a terminal cancer diagnosis and the medical report supporting his release, stating he has less than 6 months to live.
Yes, but has he reformed? Has he changed his ways?
Okay, if you have 6 months to live and you're terminal, don't they typically put you in hospice care?
And the fact that CDCR does not consider him a risk to the community.
Says who?
But I don't think we've heard them say that he's going into a hospice facility, have we?
No, they haven't said where he's going to go. He might end up homeless on the street, ready to victimize anybody.
You have 4 children who were...
I got to imagine this guy's family wants nothing to do with him.
Would you?
You have 4 children who were molested and victimized. They don't get a second chance.
Is there anything that you can do at this point to fight it?
No, and that's what's frustrating.
A prosecutor with a public plea for the law to change when it comes to compassionate release.
It should be fixed. It's a total travesty that all of these children that have been molested by this man now have to wake up every day knowing that he's back on the streets because he deserves mercy. It's insane.
We understand that Ellis will be released back into Yolo County, but we have not yet been able to confirm with CDCR exactly where he will be released or when. Part of the state law says that 48 hours after that hearing, they are eligible to be released. So we don't even know yet if Ellis has been released back out.
So we don't even know where this guy is now.
No, and I'm sure they won't tell us.
Who thought this was a great idea? Who went to Sacramento with their cause to be in politics is to let the worst of the worst out of prison early just because they're about to die?
Well, I don't know who was on the Public Safety Committee back then, but I can tell you this. The mentality that led to someone like this being released has not changed in Sacramento. The Democratic Party and the people that serve in the state legislature feel that same way today. And they would tell you that you lack compassion if you don't support something like this.
Out into the community. And I wanted to mention, if you followed any of our coverage on SVP releases, state designated sexually violent predator releases, the community gets to be a part of that process. There are hearings where the DA, the sheriff, neighbors, community members can come to the hearing and voice their concern about the specific placement of sexually violent predators. Compassionate release is a very different process, and that community involvement, that input, is not a part of the process. So I asked District Attorney Reisig about that, and he said that it's his understanding that the state parole board will place Ellis where they see fit.
In somebody's neighborhood.
Again, if you have 6 months to live or less and a terminal illness, that makes you eligible for hospice care. So if you're going to say that he needs compassionate release because of his condition, then wouldn't you put him in a hospice care facility on the outside?
This is complete insanity.
Oh, no. They're going to find some apartment near an elementary school. You watch. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Blake writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and says, John and Randy, you have to combine these two drops. That's a damn shame, and absolutely, absolutely. Let's give it a listen.
That's a damn shame.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Pretty much sums it up.
It's a lot of crime now.